Welcome everybody to Space Analog Stories. Today I'd like to welcome Karin Brünnemann. Karin has a master's degree in business information systems as well as psychology and is currently studying for her PhD in management. She also studied intercultural business communication and is a university accredited intercultural trainer. Karin has been working as an international project manager for more than 25 years and shares her knowledge as a consultant, trainer, and business coach. After completing analog mission training, Karin has been working as a flight planner and intercultural trainer for the Austrian Space Forum. Furthermore, she is a project manager at Borospace, a Slovak startup, building suborbital rockets and developing hybrid rocket fuels for ESA. So welcome, Karin.
Thank you very much, Jazz, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So could we start with maybe just you telling us how your love for space started and maybe giving us a short background of how you got involved with space analogs?
Sure. Well, I caught the space bug basically from my grandfather. He was very interested in what was happening, and one of the first memories of my childhood is actually the first moon landing. And I've been interested in space ever since. And yeah, unfortunately, the Apollo program ended, and there was not this absolute excitement anymore about space. And it started again some years ago, mainly with Elon Musk standing there and saying, now we're going to Mars. And I thought this is far too interesting for me not to be part of this. So I was thinking of how could I add value, what can I bring to the space industry. Obviously, astronauts and everybody working in the space industry needs intercultural training. So that was my first point of entry. And then I got into contact with the Austrian Space Forum, and they said, yeah, of course you can do our intercultural trainings, but you should learn about our culture a bit more before you start with that. So they invited me to their next mission training, and I went to Innsbruck. I went to the training, and having in the back of my mind that I would use everything I learned there for my intercultural training for space activities. But then it was just so interesting on so many levels that after the training, when they asked, well, we need some more flight planners who wants to be in with us, and was it me? and I can actually use my project management experience, because the work of a flight planner is very similar to that as a project manager here on Earth. So this is how I ended up in this dual role as both a flight planner, and I am the flight planner for 3 very exciting and very different experiments, and also as the intercultural trainer.
Wow, that's so interesting. I love that. So just touching on analog missions in general, what do you think some of the biggest challenges in space exploration are, and maybe specifically for a future sustainable Mars colony? And how do you think analogs are kind of helping address these issues?
Very good question. I think the biggest problem is not that we don't have a rocket yet, because rocket science is actually, it's complicated, but it's doable. But humans are complex. And the biggest challenge, yes, it's not only one challenge we have ahead of us, is really the human factor. How do we make sure that people have the psychological strength to be in a very small cramped space for minimum of 1.5 years, yeah, to go there, to stay on Mars until the constellation of the planet is in such a way that we can actually head back to Earth, and then the trip back to Earth. And there's so many things around this that we have not understood yet, or not fully understood yet. There is also, from my perspective as an intercultural trainer, yeah, which culture are we going to have on Mars? Which values? Yeah, because we will certainly send a very diverse crew to Mars. We will send men and women. We will send different ages from different countries, from different educational background, and that all plays a role, because culture is not just nationality. Culture is a profession. Yeah, an engineer has a different professional culture than an accountant, and or a salesperson. And all these things are not clear. It's not clear how we grow our food. It's not clear what medical implications a longer stay in space will have. We are doing a lot of research on the International Space Station, but that's a very small space, and only a limited number of experiments can be done there. So analog missions on Earth can be done more frequently with more people, a lot cheaper, of course, because it's extremely expensive to send an experiment to the ISS or to orbit. But here on Earth, we have so many issues that we can actually solve or help solving with analog missions. And in the Amade 20 missions, we have of course technical experiments. We test rovers, we test helicopters / drones, but we also have a lot of psychological experiments and medical experiments that will hopefully bring us closer to an understanding of how we are actually going to live on Mars.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that bit you mentioned about humans are at the heart of this. And so just going back to the intercultural awareness. So in your experience, like how important is that intercultural training for the team cohesion and the performance of the team? Like what's your experience been when you've helped people with that?
So it is definitely helping to avoid misunderstandings, miscalculations. We had one very publicly displayed intercultural mishappening in the late 1990s with the Mars Climate Orbiter that actually crashed into Mars because of cultural differences.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, almost $200 million, and many years of research were actually lost. But on the positive side, they saved a couple of $1,000 for not hiring an intercultural consultant. We think it's physics, it's the same everywhere. It's math, it works the same everywhere. And while 2 + 2 is always 4 in all cultures, they didn't consider the different units, the different measuring systems, the metric versus the imperial measurement systems, and they got numbers. They got numbers, but they got the units mixed up, pound force and Newton in terms of power. So that was to date the most visible intercultural failure that happened in space exploration. But there is the daily things. There is daily misunderstandings on the ISS. There is cultural differences that are not misunderstandings. But I have read hundreds of mission reports, also of analog missions. And one example that I remember that people found that like the Russian people in the group, they would just keep silent while they were eating, whereas the other crew members wanted to talk while they were eating. So there's no misunderstandings because it's clear, but the question is then how do you handle it?
Yes.
How do you treat that situation? And if you don't have a solution for this, you might end up with having conflict, and it's not good to have conflict in the workplace. It's not good to have such conflicts in space, certainly, and especially if you're stuck together 24/7 on a very, very limited, in a very limited space. But that's only one side of the medal. The other side of the medal is we can, of course, use cultural differences to create synergies. Yeah, if one person has a more short-term orientation and another person from their culture have a more long-term orientation, put them two together to make a plan. The plan will be perfect in short-term and in long-term.
Yes.
So and this is, I think, especially important that we remember this in space, because we have so limited resources, and resources are so expensive that we must make the best use of these resources, and we must put them together and combine them in the best possible way to get the best possible outcome. And I think this is something that is still to date overlooked to a large extent. And we're not only talking about sending people to Mars, we are talking about sending a satellite into low Earth orbit. Space exploration is always multicultural, and very few companies actually realize that there is potential to avoid mistakes, but also potential to create synergies and to make this something bigger.
Absolutely. I mean, we always discuss the importance of communication in teams, and when you have these different cultures, communication can be obviously very different between the cultures. So that's exactly right. Like, this is one of the most important things that we need to consider, is these intercultural communications.
Yeah, but it's not just communication. Yeah, there is cultural difference in maths and physics. There is cultural differences in team buildings, in values, in building trust, in negotiating, in all aspects. It's not just communication.
All interactions between different people. Yeah. Absolutely. So do you have any sort of interesting or funny personal stories that you could share of maybe some intercultural miscommunications or mishaps that you are able to share with us?
One thing that made me really laugh out loud, I was in China for a project in Shanghai.
Yeah.
And we were a big team, and there were Chinese team members and European and North American team members, and I think 2 people even from Australia. And we were in the same hotel. And one morning I come down to breakfast, to the breakfast room, and I see the team sitting around a very large table. And I looked and I immediately started laughing, because I saw the Europeans eating with chopsticks and the Chinese eating with cutlery. And it was such a funny sight that everybody just wanted to adjust to the others, and then it just turned into the other extreme. It was a funny sight.
That is pretty funny. It must have been a very funny sight. I like that. So just going slightly off topic now, imagine you had a friend who wasn't at all interested in space. How would you convince them, or how could you get them excited about space?
How would anyone not being interested in space be my friend?
Well, that's a very good point.
I'm only joking, of course. Yeah. I have many friends who have nothing to do with space industry and they're not very interested in it. And I don't want to necessarily convince them that they should be interested, because I think, again, it's diversity, different cultures. My best friend, she's an artist, yeah, and I benefit from her artistic viewpoints, yeah, and yeah, she hopefully benefits a bit from my spacey viewpoints. But it's not that we talk about space all the time, or we talk about arts all the time. We both have, everyone among my friends, we have our own interests, and I think it's good like that. And I don't know if it's really necessary to share everyone's interest. Of course, they are interested in what I'm doing, and they ask about it. And like I ask about them, but I would not try to turn anybody into a space nerd.
That's fair enough. So imagine sometime in the future you were given the opportunity to go to Mars. Would you take that opportunity and visit or even settle if that came up?
No way. I would love to go to space. I would love to go to the ISS or to the moon even. But I am a fresh air fanatic. So I could simply not live 1.5 years without being able to open a window, to go for a walk in the forest, to feel the breeze in my face. I couldn't do it, and I know my limitations there. I can hold my breath for 2 weeks to go to the moon and back, or for a 2 weeks holiday on some fancy space orbit hotel. I would love to do that. I would love to go to space because I really want to see the Earth from outside as a whole planet.
Yeah.
But not to Mars. It's not for me, and I would not be happy on such a journey.
Yeah, just a short trip to space.
Yes.
Absolutely. Fair enough, I'd say. So what are you currently working on and what's next for you with regards to space or training?
Yeah, so I'm currently still working on expanding my trainings for space professionals, intercultural competence for space professionals. Also, of course, delivering these trainings to companies working or individuals working in the space sector. I am part of a research team in Israel, going more into space psychology to address more the human factors of long-term space travel, and we have some very exciting plans there. But we're just at the very start of that process and project.
Can you share with us which company that is, or is that?
It's not a company. It's people from a couple of different universities in Israel.
I see.
Tel Aviv and Haifa. Yeah, we are researchers and trying to or dedicated to finding out more about space psychology and how we can make humans not only survive an minimum 18-month trip to Mars and back, but also to enjoy it as much as they can. And yeah, these are my plans for the next couple of months.
Sounds excellent. So is there anything else you'd like to share with us? And if people are interested in following you or getting in touch with you, how can they do that?
What I would like to share is, if you're interested in space, just grab a job there. I think a big misconception is that you have to be a rocket scientist to work for a space company and to be part of this great adventure. But in fact, space companies need accountants, astronauts need photography teachers. We need all kinds of people. And if I were, for example, a warehouse worker, I would rather work in SpaceX's warehouse than in the local supermarket. Because it's just, I mean, the work is similar, but it's just so much more exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, if you have any questions, or if you want to get intercultural training, the best way is to just find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only one with my name in the world, as far as I'm aware. If you Google my name or if you put it into LinkedIn, it's very easy to find me. And I'm happy to connect with, especially with other space interested people.
Excellent. Karin, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you very much, Jazz.